Hi everyone, this is my sermon from Erev Yom Tov last Shabbat as we got ready for Pesach. So everyone knows about tradition. Tradition is very important in Judaism. A lot of tradition is cultural, like chicken soup and lokshen. It's not religious, it's cultural. And then we have, of course, religious traditions as well. Traditions are very important. Sure, you all know the story about the young lady who was getting married and she asked her mother for recipe for brisket. Her mother said, chop off the ends, put it in the tin and cook it for 3 hours with some spices and some tomato. Says to her mother, why do I have to chop the ends off? She says, I don't know. That's the custom. That's what my mother did before her. And the girl's a bit bothered by this. She doesn't like doing things without knowing the reason. So she goes to her grandmother, who, thank God, is alive and well in her 60s. And she says, Grandma, I'm getting married. I'm going to start cooking for myself at Pesach. I'm making brisket. Why do I have to chop the ends off? She says, I don't know. That's what my mother always did. No, I ask a question. I just do it. Tradition. So she goes to the grandmother, who came to her, is in her 90s in a home somewhere. And she asks the grandmother, why do we chop the ends off the brisket? She says, I always did it because we couldn't afford a big enough pan. That's how traditions start. In my family, the tradition is that at Havdalah time, we always set the smoke alarm off. So you have to shake a towel or something like this to wave it to stop the smoke. So, of course, I said to my kids, one day your kids are going to ask, why do you wave a towel at Havdalah? I don't know. My father always did it. It's a minhag. It's a tradition. But joking aside, tradition is very important. Traditions are very precious. Life cycle events, brises, births, weddings, and of course, bereavements, shul, davening together, festivals, Friday night dinner, and Seder, and all the other things, hearing the shofar, shaking the lulav and eshov, all the mitzvot that we do are very traditional. They're very central to our lives. They're very cultural and very important. And the past year, we've seen great challenges in carrying out our traditions for all of us on many levels. There is a fascinating story in the beginning of Bereshit where Avram meets King Melchizedek. And it says that Melchizedek brought out bread, the B word, bread and wine. What's so special about bread and wine? The commentaries say because they're polar opposites. Bread, the fresher the better. Everyone wants bread straight out the oven, still warm and moist. You love it. It's steaming hot, especially on Pesach. Talk about it. Sorry. But everyone likes fresh bread. Wine, on the other hand, no one wants wine that was made yesterday. The greatest price for wine will be a 50-year-old, a 100-year-old. It's amazing. So the older it gets, the greater the vintage. What's the great chachma? What's so special about that? It's a paradigm for life. Sometimes we need the freshest, newest ideas, freshly minted, straight out the oven, because otherwise it gets stale. But other times we need the vintage stuff that we've been doing forever, and it's just as good, if not better. It gets better with age. And so it is with Judaism and Yiddishkeit and traditions. Some things get better with age, but some things get stale, and we have to come up with new ways. It's the greatest challenge for our entire community, particularly, of course, within Orthodoxy and Halakha, is finding that balance between the good old stuff that works and the new things we have to come up with. And of course, the past year, we've had to come up with many new ways of doing things. We've, as it were, slaughtered many sacred cows. We're not able to do the things that we always used to do. And it's very tough. But you know what? We're adaptable. We adapt. And I think the greatest challenge will continue to be, hopefully, as things pick up, has been for the past year, and we've done it very well. We've found ways of modifying our traditions while still being authentic to our mitzvot and our Torah and our traditions and the way we do it. But at the same time, we've found ways to modify it for a pandemic and for the 21st century. And that will remain our challenge. And Pesach represents that challenge of freedom, of finding the balance between the old and the new. May we all find that balance and continue to maintain and be faithful to our traditions whilst finding new ways of doing things that work in new and challenging times. Have a lovely Yom Tov. Thanks, Mayor.